Hey YouTubers, this is Old John. Today I'm going to work on my 10-inch Remington pole saw. It has an extension that goes on it so you can reach up into trees and trim branches. It's pretty handy. It's a small item. It's electric. Most people I know like to use gas-driven chainsaws. It's considered a 10-inch saw because the dimension from here to the end is 10 inches. That's why you determine the length of it, because that's the actual cutting portion. Now this is a little loose. This should be snug up on the bottom there. So first off, I want to get the blade off, and it's held on by this housing. So I've taken this screw out right now. There's another screw here to take out. On the back side is the remaining screw right here. Go ahead and take that out. I'm just using a Phillips head screwdriver. Then we'll remove the remaining screw up here. Let's see, oh, I missed the screw. There's one down at the bottom here. It's going to take a little longer Phillips. There's your screws. You have 3 of those, one short one on the back side. So actually 4 of these. So there's your plate. Needs to come off. It's dirty, needs to be cleaned up. We got the blade itself. I've got this on a piece of cardboard to protect my work surface from getting dirty. So then we need to remove these nuts. In this case, looks like approximately 7/16 inch socket will work. I lost this nut. It had a flat head on it, like the other one, so I improvised and used a nut I had in my nut drawer. Never throw away nuts, of course. There we go. The adjustments to this, the tightness of this, are done. This screw right here. Right there. So this whole thing comes off like so. The reason I'm taking it completely off, I want to clean the groove here where the oil is pumped in. There's a little oil reservoir here. Put your oil in here, 30 weight, and it's fed in to this through one of these holes. I think it's the top hole. So you need to keep that clean. So I'm going to clean that. And besides wiping it off, you want to clean this groove. And use some kind of a putty knife or something like this I'm using. Cutter, tile cutting kind of tool. Quite a bit of gunk in there. Some recommend sharpening your blade after every use, but for sure after probably every 3 or 4 at the most, depending on how much you're cutting and so forth. Varying views on that. And this would apply to chainsaws regardless of they're electric driven or gas. Okay, YouTubers, I'm gonna clean the chain that I have removed. I put some hand soap in there though, and then I'm just going to wipe it like this with an old toothbrush. So I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to wipe it off, dry it off. They're saying just using an old t-shirt. You can use whatever you want. You could use paper towels or something like that, but I think they're going to get caught on the sharp edges and fall apart on you, so probably some kind of cloth would be better. So there, the chainsaw I think is pretty clean. Okay, I've got this chain fairly cleaned, and the chain of course goes on like this, with this to the front, with the edges curving this way. And these are your bottom, whatever they're called, guides that fit in the groove, and mine has a 91 on them, so if they're not too worn you might actually see a number here. So now we're ready to put the chain back on and then attempt to sharpen it. You want to inspect the guide bar, make sure it doesn't need any filing by looking down at the groove, making sure these edges are even on top and there's no cutout in the groove itself. If there is, then you need to do some filing. And this groove needs to be clean, of course. And on the back side of the unit there's actually a level indicator on the back side of the oil tube that you can look to see, make sure you have oil in the reservoir high enough. When you're through using the chainsaw, you want to take the top off. This has a nice little bulb on it. Mine broke from storage. It split open, so I had to buy a new one. It was a little tricky getting it. It's expensive online. But anyway, you want to drain the oil out. And I just drain it back into a bottle of that I have set aside for it. And because otherwise it'll tend to seep out. That's just the nature of the design. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. Okay, we're ready to put the chain on. Before we do that, just look at a couple things here. This is your adjusting screw. It's got a nut on it. You might want to screw it so this nut is as far to the left as possible so you have maximum ability to adjust and tighten it up after you put it on. Okay, when you put this guide on, you have your adjusting screw here, and then the little nut that's on the end of it. We'll make sure we line it up so that little nut appears in the hole on the guide plate, because that's going to allow you to adjust the guide plate and the chain tightness. So make sure you do that before you tighten it down. This comes off here with this little washer with hooks on it that clamp around this shaft if you want to take that off. I'm going to put the chain on now. No, we're going to put the guide on first, and it doesn't matter, I don't think. The hole and the oil slot are identical on each side, so I'm just going to put it with the letters up. So anyway, it just slides onto the two bolts behind this plate. And we want to put the chain on with these sharp areas to the rear, because it's going to rotate this way. So just start threading it into the groove. And obviously I've got it way too loose, so I'm going to pull it out and tighten it up. Get it reasonably tight before we put the nuts on. We'll do that next. Now we need to take up this slack here